So I was wondering how I was going to approach this on many fronts, but there are just some things that I really wanted to address and things that I had planned on addressing from the get-go. Um, and I honestly don't know which one to start because a lot of these things have been floating in my mind for just a long time. I don't think I've ever expressed this much to people beyond my father. But I feel like this one. Actually, let's address this before I address literally any other topic. And I know it's going to be a hard topic for some people, but I want to let everybody know this right now. This is something about me that when it comes to the Bible, I've always looked at it as something that's very, how do you say, word for word. I know that a lot of people will look at the Bible and try to defend. It's natural to try and defend some of your predispositions on things, especially if you grew up in a certain denomination. Like I grew up Pentecostal, but I do lean more towards Baptist when it comes to the, I guess you could say, Christian sector. Of course, I'm a Messianic Jew. Um, and that's just, people who hold Judaistic practices while believing that Jesus is Lord. So when it comes to that, I do hold more, like you would say, Pentecostal views. As to say, I guess going into the Christian world, I realized that the way people view, and this was kind of a shock to me, the way people view Pentecostals is something that I wasn't really prepared for because some of the things that they accuse Pentecostals of was some of the things that I had never even, heard of or seen before. And I remember a YouTuber talking about this specific thing where they were like, this is only half of the pie. These people are only half of the pie. But again, it is something that people see. It's a more often than not sort of thing. And I feel that way about Pentecostals. Also, I was dating a young man, and of course he was Christian, and he was telling me about my denomination. I was telling him that yes, I lean more toward, I guess you could say, Pentecostal, and he was telling me how bad the Pentecostals were, how he could see like Satan in them and everything. And it was like, oh, it's nothing like I had grown up. We didn't have any Satan in us, I guess. What the whole thing about it was just loud worship, lots of dancing, drumming, praise, hallelujah, stuff like that, a normal, average, everyday, Pentecostal, my knowledge. But when you really go out into the Christian world, you look at it and you're like, oh my goodness, I can definitely see where people are coming from. When you saw, I can't even remember his name, and I'm not even going to get into false teachers right now. I will later, but when you see people like, I forgot his name, I guess I shouldn't really forget, but where, I think it was Kenneth Copeland or something, yeah, where he was like throwing his jacket on people and they were like falling down, and people in general, they were falling down, and that was Pentecostal. And I remember looking at that and I was like, this is like nothing I had ever seen before. Just coming from out of a Pentecostal church, it was nothing that we had done before, at least our sector. Um, and even I had visited here in Houston, because I'm new to Houston. I had visited a Pentecostal church and I had noticed them doing that. Like this guy was like, you will be healed, and like throwing them back. And I was just in shock and awe. Like you hear about these things, but you never really think that you're going to go through them. You look at them from like a YouTube video, and you never think that you're going to ever come across it. You think that it's like some obscure one in a million sort of thing. Like, oh my goodness, I got this caught on camera. But when you do go through that, you're like, oh my gosh, this is real. And especially when you come from that background, especially he was mainly talking about the guy who I was watching, and I should really get some channel names if I'm doing this now, but he was talking about the charismatics, and he was like, oh, well, it's not all charismatics, and I can sort of relate to that to an extent, being Pentecostal, because, seeing people throwing jackets on it, pushing them down, it was something that I had never, ever, 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 ever seen before in my life. Um, And there's a sense of you do want to say, oh, well, it's just a certain, sector. Okay, let's see if we can do it like this because my legs are just starting to hurt. But anyways, you do want to sit here and say, well, this is just a different sector. This is not what we do. This is not what we're used to doing. And to an extent, I really agree because, people see what they want to see. People, you're not going to find, I guess you are going to find, but if you go on YouTube or something, when they're usually highlighting Pentecostal, they're not highlighting the type of stuff that I grew up around. They're not highlighting the amazing sermons, just the amazingness of it, the amazing sermons, the washing of the feet, just stuff like that. They're never going to show that. They're mainly going to show people like Kenneth Copeland. And honestly, do I blame them? Absolutely not, because this is something that we do need to be made aware of as Christians, as just like our religion as a whole. That is something that we need to be made aware of, because he was right. It's not only for our sake, because you see atheists, they were reacting to this specific video as well. People like Kenneth Copeland do give them the fuel. And they say, see, look, this is why Christianity is illegitimate. And I have made my testimony on this, just atheism in general. And that is fuel because people will take that. People who have never experienced Christianity, like my ex-boyfriend, he had never, ex-fiance really, but he had never, he didn't grow up around Christianity. He had known nothing about Christianity. And I think, and thank goodness, sorry, and thank goodness, I told him more about it before he, saw videos like that, because he's just like me. It's like me and him were the same person. Once he sees it, he's like, I'm convinced these people are crazy. And I'm really scared of the future of Christianity when it comes to that. Um, because like I said, people are going to point a camera and say, look to things that are obscure and out of this world. That's just human nature. I'm not blaming them. Because, like I said, in all honesty, it's something that we do need to see and we do need to correct. So that's just that on that, and I've talked already way too long on that. But that's just it. And honestly, I was going, believe it or not, I was going to be going into modesty. And I feel like I'm going to just have to make that another video. However, I guess I do need to address this. And that's another thing, addressing things within the church. I feel like there are certain things that do need to be addressed within the church, but us as Christians, it's something that we're afraid to correct people. When you see somebody running with a concept, how do I say, Mormonism. Let's take Mormonism as an example. Let's just look at Mormonism. If you've ever done any deep research into Mormonism, you're going to see that it is just a religion of, I don't know what they're doing. They take whatever it is that they made up and they slap Christianity on it, and then they call themselves Christian. Now, I am best friends for life, BFFL. I'm best friends for life with a Mormon. And she will swear up and down that she is a Christian, even though I know that she is not. You can look up, and I know there are not many videos on this, but I will make sure to do a video on Mormonism, because this needs to be more widely known. But I feel like we should be correcting false doctrine in the church, and that's something that Paul will want, because I feel like if we keep letting this go on, we're going to be a laughing stock of the Protestant community. because, you know, as my name suggests, Anima Sancta, I do like to listen to some Catholic sermons. Um, of course, you know, get out all the idolatry. You know, whenever they say "Hail Mary, full of grace," you know, you kind of like tune out a little bit because, you know, again, heavy idolatry. Um, and I pray for every Catholic that they. I know there are going to be some Catholics who saw my channel name and they're like, "Oh, a good Catholic woman." It's like, no, I do pray that, you know, that Catholics will turn from idolatry and follow Jesus correctly. And I'm not afraid to say stuff like that. I'm not afraid to say that Mormonism is not Christianity. Whatever it is that they got going on is not Christianity, and it needs to be addressed. And uh, again, like I said, sorry for the position change again, but like I said, Mormonism is a different video for a different day. I'm going to have to do some more extensive research on it and come up with a list of things that just completely refute it, and it's honestly not going to be that hard. I know one of my main things with Mormonism is like it's works based. I always wondered how they I always wondered how they got over all the work, like you cannot do works, like no amount of work is going to get you to heaven. I wonder how they were going to, you know, make it work. But again, another video for another day. But yeah, I feel like this is something that we should be correcting within the Christian community, and it deserves a harsh rebuke. Um, I feel like many people are too concerned with the. I always mess up this name, Bodhibakum. I absolutely adore him. He calls, like, what was it? The first commandment, or I think no, I think he calls it like the only commandment. Thou shalt be nice. And I feel like many Christians are too engulfed in the thou shalt be nice. And they're like, oh, well, they're still Christians. Like, no, they're not. They are not, by definition, they are nowhere near Christians. And I feel like we need to really be correcting them on that. And I'm not saying that you guys sit there, scream, yell, and, you know, do crazy stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we really, really need to make it be known that we don't agree with them. This is not our doctrine. We don't know what this is. This is not Christianity. Period. It's not Christianity. It could not be farther from Christianity. And I know I'm going to anger some Mormons. I forgot the word for a second. I know I'm going to anger some Mormons, but that's the truth. I don't want us to be so consumed with thou shalt be nice that we end up collapsing in on ourselves, in on our religion. We forgot what makes our religion strong. I'm not saying that we should go through extreme measures, but I'm just saying that by sitting here and doing nothing to correct anybody on anything, it's not doing anybody any good. It's definitely not doing our religion good. It's not doing the kingdom any good. It's not doing Jesus any good. And I think it's really harmful to just sit here and let all these denominations spring up out of like you know, nothing. Especially Mormonism, out of nothing. And since the 1800s, we have said nothing about it. We just continue to let it grow, and let them, you know, spread false doctrines. Like I said, I'm not calling for like, oh, impale them. Like, no. I'm just saying that we need to call it out whenever we see it. That's all I'm saying. Like, me personally, I've come to the point where it's like, I was raised Pentecostal, and this is where I was going. I was raised Pentecostal. But I'm going to look at the entire Bible, and I'm going to see what washes and what doesn't. And I will say that I was in a Reddit. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it was called True Christians, where I was talking about the subject of wives obeying your husbands, and they went nuts. And I am going to have a video on that. Trust me. that is coming. But, um, yeah, uh, like I said, just correction within the faith needs to be more widespread. So we don't get people who will misunderstand us. Because honestly, in the world that we're living in, that's something that we just can't afford. And that's it.